Welcome to Code Freedom. I'm your host, Eddie Bales. Have you ever felt stuck? Have you ever felt like there's got to be more than life than the reality that you see every day? Tune in weekly, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays as we crack the codes to freedom in every area of your life. Welcome to Code Freedom. I'm your host, Eddie Bales, and this is episode 19. And today we're going to talk about influence. And one of my favorite authors, John C. Maxwell, he talks about leadership, which, of course, we'll be talking about that one in the upcoming episodes. But he talks about leadership, and he says leadership is nothing more than influence. And he says, he that walks and thinks he leads with no followers is just taking a walk. Right. And so the whole goal is that you have to have a level of influence to do some things in this world. Right. And part of influence is sales. And a lot of people run away from that word sales. They feel uncomfortable when people mention that word. But I submit to you that you got to run to that word. I would do everything possible to learn sales, the art of sales, whether you do your own studying or whether you engage in something where you can sell. Because there's a book called Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. I would highly suggest you get that book. But the thing about it is there's this myth of that you got to be a bad person and a crooked person, and you got to like manipulate people and feel uncomfortable and all this other stuff when it comes to sales. And that is the furthest from the truth. There's a difference between being an amateur and to being a professional. And you want to obviously be a professional because look, we talked about being an entrepreneur. We understand fundamentally that if we want freedom, we can't be at someone else's business. We have to have our own business. We have to be in control. We got to be able to call the shots, right? We understand that. But if you're going to have a business, you got to have sales, right? And okay, I get it. Let's just say that you have a business, but you have a sales department. Well, somebody's got to influence there to be success there. Like for instance, somebody's got to be able to influence the manager or the person above that sales department to increase the numbers, right? So there's got to be a level of sales on everything. Like you're selling when you're talking to your spouse. You're selling when you're talking to your kids. You're selling when you're talking to your boss. You're selling everywhere you go. You can't escape it, right? I always say we're all selling. We just don't get paid for it because we're constantly selling. We just don't see it that way because we're not looking at it as a transaction per se, where you have a product and money is exchanged, right? But it's still the same thing. So, in terms of being there's levels to influence. In terms of being able to highly influence people, and this is not, again, this is not manipulation. When you hear the word influence and you hear the word persuasion or you hear the word sales, most people immediately go toward the negative side because we can all think of somebody who was manipulative or who may have done some of those bad things, but that is not the norm. That is not the holy grail when it comes to sales or influence, right? So again, I highly suggest you really pick it up as a skill set because it is a skill set. It is something that you can learn. Some people have it better than others, right? But at the end of the day, either you're selling or someone is selling you. Either you're getting your way or someone else is getting their way. So why not you get your way? Why not learn the skills on how to get your way, right? And understand me when I say this. You think about a relationship. My goal is not for me to always win with if I'm having a conversation with my wife. Why? Because if I'm winning, then that means that she has to lose. And if she loses, I lost, right? And so that's the point, folks, is that the whole goal for this is for it to be a win-win. You always want to think win-win. And this is not, a training on sales. I could do that, but today I just want to really just impress upon you that the idea of influence and sales, it should be something we should learn to master. It should be something that we should run towards instead of run away from, right? Every single day, sales is happening. It's happening everywhere you go. There's, like for instance, you want your kid to eat their vegetables. You got to do a sales job, right? You want your spouse to, be nice, or maybe buy you a gift for your birthday, or I don't know, whatever. It's a sales job that has to happen, right? You want your boss to give you a raise, or you want the boss to actually hire you, right? It's constantly, constantly, constantly. We just don't see it that way, but it's there. And so, if that's the case, why not get good at it? You know, um, again, I mentioned it, but if you're working for someone else and you aspire to have your own company or build your own business and be free, which I highly suggest, then you have to learn sales, because you can't have a business that doesn't have sales. Show me a business that's not selling, and I'm gonna show you a business that's no longer going to be a business, right? Because sales drives economies, right? And by the way, look at it as a science, look at it as a sport or art. These are things that you can learn and get better at and better at, to a point where it just becomes a part of who you are. And the cool thing about it is you start to get your way. You start to get things the way you want it. And again, when I say get things the way you want it and get your way, I'm still talking about a win-win. There's a way for you to win and everyone else to win too, right? It doesn't mean that when you win, everyone has to lose. There's a way where you can compromise and make it in such a way where other people can feel uplifted from an exchange, right? And it is an exchange, because you are in the whole sales process. I mean, looking at the Merriam definition of selling, is the action of persuading or influencing another to a course of action or to the acceptance of something. So we all have actions that we want others to take, or we want people to accept certain things. I mean, you got a child that's trying to sell Girl Scout cookies, and she wants to win so she can go on a trip, right? So sales has to happen there. You have so many examples. I mean, and by the way, if you learn how to sell, you'll never have a challenge with earning income. And salespeople are some of the most highest paid professions in this world, because every company needs them. And every company needs good ones too, by the way. Now, I'm not saying you got to be a hardcore salesperson. I don't see myself that way, right? However, I understand fundamentally that it is a skill that is necessary, and it is a skill that you should study. You should study to get better so that you can have the skills to influence. Because as you start to grow, you start off maybe at a point where you're selling, but then you start to grow to a place where you're leading. And leading is selling, because you have to influence, right? So when you're influencing others, you have to have a level or element of sales in that whole process. So um, it drives the economy. All professions rely on it. And again, it is one of those things that is very necessary toward freedom, because when you want freedom, you have to have options, and in order to have options, you have to learn how to develop develop conversations and communications with people, where it's an art. It's definitely an art. It's a science. It's a sport, as I mentioned, and it's something that I have embraced, because I'll be honest, when I first got involved in being an entrepreneur, I kind of I've had some bad experiences when it came to sales, right? But I've learned and I've evolved and I've gotten better, and I continue to get better, right? Because I understand that it is necessary. It's necessary when you want to build anything, right? And so this is just kind of like a introduction to the thought or the idea for a lot of people, that sales doesn't have to be so bad, right? And so you could find different ways you can practice it. You can practice it in your home. You can practice it at your job. You can practice it with your friends. You can practice it with your family. You can practice it everywhere you go. And the goal is to get better and better and better at it so that not only are you bringing value to other people's lives, but you're also getting some of the things that you desire, the things that you want. And that's what freedom's all about, is being able to get what you want, being able to do what you want, when you want, how you want to do it, not have to ask a boss, right? Not have to ask anyone to be able to do it. And look, it takes a level of influence to be able to get to those types of levels because there are levels to it, right? Even in my own in my business, I tell people addition, you get when you have followers, you get addition, but when you lead leaders, you get multiplication. And the only way to lead leaders is if number one, you have gotten really good at a level of influence, but then now you can influence not only yourself, but you're able to influence other people through other people, if that makes sense, right? Because now you're multiplying your efforts, you're scaling to a point where you have people and organizations that come to you for advice, for information, for knowledge, for direction, right? And so, in order for them to put you in that platform, you have to have some influencing skills. Show me a CEO that's not that doesn't have some sales skills, and I'll show you someone that will probably not be a CEO anymore. But in all honesty, they wouldn't have gotten to that level if they didn't have some level of influence and a sales capacity to them. So I hope you guys got some value from this. I hope this maybe shifted some of your thought process, because a lot of people they'll say, "Oh, sales, that's not me," right? And no, it really is you, right? I did a TikTok video, which, by the way, that's a plug. Go check out my TikTok. I'm still getting better with it. It's something that's new and something that I have to get better at. But I did one, and I was kind of talking about that. So definitely check that out. But my point, guys, is just that you want to master this, and so an idea is get every book you can get your hands on when it comes to sales. There's certain topics that you probably should get every book you can get your hands on when it comes to those categories, because you want to master them. You want to master it and get to a place where you can be confident, you can be you can have influence, you can have the persuasiveness, and you can do it in such a way that's smooth, that's professional, where people feel good, like they actually want to buy from you or they want to do what you would want them to do, right? I heard someone say years ago that persuasion is not getting people to do what you want them to do, but getting people to want to do what you want them to do. And that is a skill. But it can be done, but you have to learn it, and you really have to make it something that you will continue to grow and get better at. So again, I hope you guys got some value from this. Feel free to share, and thanks for tuning in. God bless. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for listening. Definitely feel free to take a screenshot of this episode, tag me in it on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you find me on social media. I would love to give you a shout out. Hey, you might even get a prize. Who knows? But excited that you had a chance to take a listen. I hope you got a lot of value. And definitely feel free to give us 5 stars as well as a review. Show us some love, and we appreciate you. God bless you all, and see you all over the top.